everyone, welcome back to the Nello Reads channel. Our first Tales from Tech Support story comes from Mammoth Warning. Woman doesn't listen to my warning before accidentally bashing her head open with an amplifier. I used to work for a company that supplies overhead music to big business chains. Think Target, Starbucks, Hot Topic, etc. My department provides technical support to stores when their music isn't working. Now, I don't actually have a lot of tech service stories because of how our system works. When something goes down in a store, we're not talking to some area manager Karen who's ready to scream at us for the music being down. Rather, we have to troubleshoot with the stores themselves. So if we're calling a Starbucks location, it's going to be some uninvested barista or assistant manager that couldn't care less that their system isn't blaring "All I Want for Christmas Is You" 20 times a day. Mind you, that does mean that we have a hard time getting people at the store to troubleshoot with us at all. So was the case with the Starbucks I called. The first 3 attempts went something like this. Hey there, my name is OP from insert company name here. I'm reaching out today regarding your overhead music. Is a manager available to talk? This is her. When is a technician coming out? Unfortunately, I'm unable to send out a tech unless I verify some things with the system first. Do you have time to remote troubleshoot? No, just send a tech. Click, and she hangs up. This happened a few times over the course of 2 days, trying to call at all different times to try and catch the store at a less busy time. Unfortunately, due to company policy, we can't send a technician out there except under 2 conditions. New equipment needs to be installed, or there's an issue that can't be solved remotely. Eventually, on my 4th or 5th call, the manager finally relented. Once we get the store to agree to troubleshoot, it generally only takes 5 minutes to fix. We have very simple setups. A music player connects to the internet for playlist updates and also feeds music to an amplifier. The amp sends the music to the speakers in the store. If you can hook up a video game console, you can hook up one of our players. And even the least tech-savvy person can usually follow along with our instructions for troubleshooting. So, we begin. Great, are you able to locate your music player and amplifier? No, I don't know where they are. Have you ever changed the volume of the music in your store? Yes, there's a box with a little knob. That's the amplifier. Well, how was I supposed to know that? I rolled my eyes and apologized for not being clearer, but continued anyway. It's up on a shelf too high. I can't reach it. Well, how do you reach it when you want to change the volume? I get a step stool, but I don't know where it is right now. I try my best not to sigh in exasperation as she tries her very best to insist that there's no way she can troubleshoot. She just repeatedly asks if I can send a tech and whines about not being able to reach the equipment. Ma'am, I'm sure you'll find the step stool if you look. Fine then, I'll just use my chair. Huge red flag went up. I would advise against that, ma'am. It might not be stable. I think I'm perfectly capable of standing on a chair, thank you. Ma'am, some of that equipment is very heavy, and it's not safe to use a chair to reach for it troubleshooting. Listen, why don't you stick to doing your job and not worry about what I'm doing, okay? After she says this, I hear some skidding noises coming from the other end of the phone. Is everything all right? I'm fine, just rolling my office chair to the shelf. Ma'am, please don't stand on a chair with wheels. She ignored me completely and just asked, okay, so what am I? She was abruptly cut off as I hear a loud thud followed by an even louder crash. Ma'am, are you okay? No answer. I try in vain for about a minute to call out to the woman on the other end, steadily getting more and more worried that she's seriously injured. Eventually, someone else picks up the phone. Hey, she can't come back to the phone right now. Her forehead is bleeding. What happened? So not only did she fall off the chair onto her back, but she also brought the amplifier with her. Our amplifiers are about the size of an Xbox, and the corners are not rounded. It had landed on its corner on her forehead while she was lying prone on the ground. After a few moments of stunned silence, not knowing where to go from here, I simply ask, is the amp disconnected from everything else? Yeah? Cool, then this counts as an install. I'm sending a technician, have a nice day. And I hang up. I take a moment to recover before going back to making outbound calls. Luckily, the store never called to complain about that interaction, and I continue on my day, acting as if it never happened. I totally understand that working at a place like Starbucks can be very stressful and annoying, but with the attitude that manager had, she sorta had it coming. I really do hope she's okay now though, and has learned not to use a wheelchair as a stepping stool, something I am absolutely guilty of, but will hopefully not do again after reading this story. Our next story comes from Palandra. No, you don't need admin permissions for that. In my company, we have a team that IT and systems hate. They're so entitled. All MBAs from top universities who look at the rest of the office as beneath them. They have the best cutting-edge hardware that any pro gamer would be envious of, and they still complain that the machines are too slow. Hint, might have something to do with the 20 Excel files you have open on top of the Bloomberg app, plus the crappy macros you wrote that have no memory management. What's that? You don't know what memory management is? You don't say. They always want any new software they can get their hands on, which needs to be approved by the larger company we belong to and go through the proper onboarding security process, even though they barely know how to use it, because someone read that it might do something they could use at some point and they want it yesterday. We have company-wide security policies that apply to everyone, yet they have to have exemptions because they, quote, cannot do their work like this, and upper management lets them get away with it because they make the company a lot of money. Although, luckily Business Daddy is zeroing down on that and slowly kicking them off their golden pedestal. In any case, for a reason that doesn't deserve explaining, they're moving databases, so they need a sandbox machine to do their development. When I set them up with a test server I manage personally, I told them that security policies dictated by higher powers explicitly state that I was not to give them admin rights to their database, and that there was no possible reason why they would need it. My bosses would have just given up and let them run wild on the server, but I am more stubborn and headstrong, much to their chagrin. I just gave them all the read, write, download permissions so they can do and undo anything they want within their own pigsty without it contaminating the other databases we have. Fast forward a couple months, and after a few bumps, they're now wanting to move the tables from their old database to the new one on the sandbox. Side note, for some contract reasons, we cannot just take a backup of the old one and load it into the new server, so it really has to be a table-by-table transfer. The problem is that once they move their tables, they need to add primary keys to them, and for that, they say they now need admin rights. My BS meter starts beeping. I go back on their email and remind them that we cannot give them admin rights. I want to add, especially for such a ridiculous reason, but I save it for myself. And that any script they need to run that requires higher permissions, they can send to me and I'll review it and run it. They don't like that. There's a back and forth on the emails. Yes, no, yes, nah, yes, nuh-uh. But we have our weekly meeting scheduled for that day, so anything they want to tell me, they can say to my virtual face. Along comes the meeting, and they start by saying it's non-negotiable, they need the rights because it's a lot of tables they need to migrate, and they're too busy and don't have the time to go through each table with me, and they'd rather do it themselves. I'm confused because they will need to script every table as a create command, so why not include the keys then and there? But apparently someone else will automate that scripting, so they don't need to worry about that. Besides, they're too busy to go through the automation process and change the script to include the keys. I still don't understand their logic or how they'll be automating the scripting, but I still won't give them the permissions. Any key they want to include after the tables are built can be sent over to me and I'll run the script. But no, they don't have the time to go through every table with me. They're too busy to schedule a meeting and sit down with me to get the keys added. I'm doubly confused now. Who's talking about a meeting? Just send me the code you need to run. Well, unstoppable force meets unmovable object, and they just get frustrated. They literally say, let's move on because we're getting nowhere with this, and I don't plan to discuss this for 40 minutes while we get nothing done. My blood boils, and I just say, fine. I don't understand why you cannot script whatever you need to change and send it to me. You say you're too busy to go through every single table, but you'd still need to know which columns need to be set to a primary key for each table. If you didn't know that, I don't see how you'll be able to add them, admin rights or not. It's worth pointing out that my boss and my boss's boss have been quiet all this time, and it's just me and them bashing it out. Well, after my snarky reply, my boss jumps in and tries to defuse the situation. Okay, maybe if we set up another meeting, you can explain to us what you're trying to accomplish, and we'll see how we can help you. The main guy is already sharing his screen and shows us in the Object Explorer in SSMS, expand databases, expand database name, expand tables, expand table name, right-click keys, click on new foreign key, warning message pops out saying they need permissions to do that action. We need to go through hundreds of tables and do this. You want to volunteer your time just because you don't want to give us admin rights? Fine, go ahead. Well, Tales from Tech Support, here's where my jaw drops. Mr. Better Than You top university MBA genius that is, quote, too busy to go through every single one of the tables with me is actually planning on going through each and every single one of his database tables. Expand, right-click, and add a primary key in the most inefficient way possible. I'm just bewildered and simply say, you do know what you've just done can be scripted, right? What? That whole action of selecting a table, adding a column to be a primary key, all of that can be scripted. I just type the command in the meeting chat. Suddenly, his angry tone shifts in a second faster than a bipolar Karen off her meds. Oh, okay, fine, let's do that. As annoying as he sounds, props to the MBA guy for not escalating this even further. I know a lot of people in his position would absolutely double down and be like, no, we can't do it that way, or something along those lines. So, good on him. The third story comes from Rambling Hambling. Your IT, fix a sparking fuse box. Just had a call from one of our oldest clients. Around 11 machines and one server, all running on site. He was panicking on the phone. We just had a power cut, so everything is offline and the box is sparking. Can you explain further? What box are you talking about? The electrical box you installed, and it's sparking. Is there anything you can do? This was installed by someone who worked for the company before I came on board. So I say, I can recommend you call the fire brigade and your electricity supplier. There is nothing I can do. But your IT, it's computers, you can fix it. If it's sparking, it's a fire risk. I need you to phone the fire brigade now. This is not a job for IT. He just hangs up angrily, and shortly after I get a call from my boss, who is elsewhere today, saying, just had a complaint that you wouldn't fix a sparking fuse box. Is this correct? I explained the above call, and he goes, it's not our problem if it's caught fire, and they're 300 miles away. The fire brigade will get there faster than we can. I don't know what actually happened in the end, but I can now see all their machines and the server is back online. So, job done. Back to checking if machines are fully patched. Hey, well, it looks like everyone wins in the end. OP got a funny story and some Reddit karma, and the business owner got his fire hazard all figured out. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and I'll see you in the next video.